All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night here from Tokyo, Japan. Hope you all are doing well and having a good day wherever you may be. We are live. So, yeah, interesting one for today in terms of the topic. Going to be talking about, I think this is, some people might, have been hoping for bad news so they can get more dip. But then also there have been, some people who are basically like, yep, let's see a new trend get forming here. So there's a bit of that talking in terms of a bit of a change in the winds here, talking about the EU Bitcoin ban, which we mentioned briefly on Moon Gang as a possibility, right? On what was it on Sunday, U.S. time, right? But that ban has failed massively. So we're going to talk about that here today. And then what's the bull case for quarter two, 2022, right? And so in that, there might be a little bit of an announcement here as well. So stay tuned for that. But before we do, of course, we're going to get into the memes and the price action and all that jazz. But let's see what the Moon Gang is doing in here. It looks like we got our number one Moon Ganger in the house today, being Todd 007, jumping in there early in the day today. Much appreciated. I think some of you are like, what's with the time change? All right. Basically, EST, we started at 8 a.m. EST for all you Europeans out there. And they had the daylight savings time over the weekend, hence the time change. Exactly. Commando says clocks move forward. This should be at 1 p.m. UK time. Exactly. So for me, right, I during the half of the year, I'm doing it at 10 p.m. and now it's jumping forward for me as well at 9 p.m. instead. So it is good. So yeah, let's take a look at what's going on in the chat and then we'll jump into some of the things that we got going here today, all of that bullish action. When sentiment, to be honest, right, is pretty weak here in the market. Let's see, we got the Black Gentleman Geek saying konnichiwa, Moongang Tachi. Welcome, welcome. Konbanwa from Japan. We got Giant Leprechaun in the house. Top of the morning, Moongang. Top of the morning to you, sir. Smooth Brain. Good morning, Moongang. I like it. Glad to see it, Scott. And yes, definitely. I think today's topic is very timely for basically what we got going on here. So definitely. Let's see. Good luck trying to pronounce this one. Gunyaden Moongangers, apparently. I'll have to look up which language that is. Have not seen that one around. There might be a shift on this today, Patriarch of Saracens. We might be talking about something about that here soon. Good stuff. So yeah, it looks like everybody is doing well today. People in the house still got that McDonald's hat on. It's all good. All right. Yeah, no problem, Commando. Glad to help out on that. Yeah, there's also, I mentioned to you in that chat, basically, there's some back testing that we've done on the 60-day cycle that I've not seen similar types of analysis before. We can't release all the data, but there might be some of it. I'll basically figure out how we can get that over to you, because I think, that will be helpful in adding extra data and interest and kind of relevancy to what's happening with the 60-day cycle, because it's quite interesting. DJ Finesse. Yes. We're going to actually talk about Rune today, because I think it was less than 2 weeks ago when we talked about Rune, and it is pumping just as expected. Let's see here. John Papal says, my first job was at McDonald's. Started from the bottom. Now we're here at the Moon Gang. Appreciate it, sir. DJ Finesse. Yeah. Charlie isn't going to tell you, told you so, but he told you so. Rune. Yep. Yeah, I mean, I think there's still moves to go for runes, so we're gonna go into that. Definitely, good one there. So, hit all those buttons, and we'll get going here with all that free information today. So let's jump into it and get into the memes. The memes today, I would say, are okay. They're pretty good, but I don't know. I think I've seen less. Like, there's kind of that. What do you call it? The phase where the retail traders have been like when the prices were going down or the prices were going up, they were making lots of memes. But recently, the memes have been kind of so. I mean, last week the memes were pretty good, but this week I think the production is low. But it is what it is. So let's get into the memes and do it. Oh, got to share sound on one of them as well. Don't worry, Scott. There are second opportunities on that one coming up soon. We'll talk about that. To infinity and beyond, and here we go. All right. Oh, we are live. I think I didn't hear the sound. And take two. There we go. There we go. All right. So, me. I can't believe it increased by 1,500%. Professor, I'm sick of hearing about Ethereum. Nothing can increase by that much and still be good, a good investment. Me. I was talking about the price of college tuition since 1980. Professor with the dumbfounded look on his face. But my tenure. Not bad, not bad. I think this one I saw maybe in 2019 as well. So good to bring it back. Also not too shabby, right? When your $20 investment becomes $20.72 overnight. Winning. Good stuff. Altcoin Gordon's been hitting a few good ones here recently. If you still have a Netflix subscription, you're not all in crypto. Think about it. Never ask a woman her age, a man his salary, or tether about their dollar reserves. Yep. Also, speaking of age, crypto trader, 30, grabbing a beer with his non-crypto buddy, also 30. I'm 25 and feeling great. Harold. Good old Harold. All right. And getting into, a little bit of pumping, not a lot here today, but, just a little tune here for, those crypto dogs who want to, see this start happening again. Just waiting for that pump, right? Just kind of keep on vibing till you wait for that pump. Eventually, pump shall come. So let's jump over here and see what's going on in the chat. Like I said, meme sentiment kind of low today. I think a lot of people waiting for that FOMEC meeting here on the 15th and 16th, which we'll talk about as well today. John Paval says, I'm convinced this whole crypto market is a meme. Yes, sir. It definitely is. Memeing our way through life. I'll let you see what you did there, Chris. Open tab. Today is Open Tab Tuesday. Not bad. Nailed it on the college tuition. Yep, 100%. Good morning to you as well, sir. When Chihuahua coin? Hey, hasn't been done yet. Opportunity right there. Opportunity. Raven says, I don't know. I prefer the cat with Bogos bad. True. All right. So Yes, Chris Amore. We will also talk about this today. I went to UCC, University of Cultivate Crypto. Perfect. Commando with the guess here that I've been alluding to. Banner, 15th March. So start the DCA. Well, let's take a look here and see what's going on. Yep, that is true. 1 month, 30 days. Crypto Mindset course Q2 2022, April 15th, baby. April 15th. So Moon Gang, let's go. I'll throw the link in the chat here. Basically, I'll update this link with more details here a little bit later today, but it is still good nonetheless. There you go for you early birds who have not been up on the list yet. So, just kind of slide it into the conversation here, just ever so slightly today. And then we're going to get into it here, and we're going to talk about the bullish case for Q2 and, where April 15th might kind of play a role in this. One thing which I will mention about April 15th is that is a Friday, I believe. Let's see here. Yeah, it is Friday the 15th. We may, as we get closer to the date, we may have to shift it. But for the most part, that's the date that we're aiming for. So April 15th, Crypto Mindset course Q2, baby. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Up and coming. True. Did not think about this in terms of why we chose the date for the course, but hey, it is true nonetheless, Carlos. 420 will be happening during the course. That is correct. So I'll address this, Angelo, and I'll kind of let you know. Right now it's all probabilities, right? There's no guarantee on anything, but I'll go through a couple scenarios here. Obviously, I'm going to go through the bull case scenario mainly here today, but I'll go through another type of scenario as well, and why we're positioning it for April 15th. Good question. All right. So let's go, and let's jump into what is going on with Bitcoin and Ethereum, and see what is happening in the market as well as the broader market, and look at what's been moving the most here over the last 24 hours. All right. So jumping into this, right, we'll refresh coin market cap here and see what's going on. Again, right, we're crabbing. I think I told you guys, right, just over the course of the last few weeks, right, that if we get a more crabby scenario, right, more sideways action, the better, right? It's not what everybody wants, right? Everybody wants some pump or some dump to buy the dump, right? A lot of people don't like, a crabbing market, but we've been telling you guys that this is, in order for Bitcoin to hold up, right, is one of the main scenarios. So we'll talk about that today. But that's essentially what we see going on with the altcoins then too, is there's not really a whole lot of movement going on here. But if we do look at the last 24 hours, we do have one coin over the 10% threshold here. Over the last 24 hours, we got our friend Thorchain Rune, which we talked about specifically. Let's see here. Going to get you guys the exact date we talked about this, so we can look at it on the chart for you. Rune, we talked about in the episode number 413, right? Can Rune make a 10x comeback, right? Bullish breakdown on Rune. We talked about that on March 2nd. March 2nd, 2022. So we'll take a look here. So looking over at Rune, right? It was about $5 when we talked about it on the show. Now it is $7.71. So it's doing pretty nice. Pretty nice move here by Rune. If we put this on log scale, you can see, right? Basically, we had that first. Let's do this. We'll go into the actual charts here in a second, but we had the first pump off the double bottom, essentially, meaning we had this other bottom here. We bottomed around the same area, right? Basically, and then we come in here. We had that first pump up, and around the top of this first pump, right, is where we talked about you'll have a dip incoming to dollar cost average in, or just grab it what you want in Rune, and then now right, we're looking for that first pump. So I'll do a refresher right now on the Rune chart, but it's been a nice move here when the rest of the market's basically doing a lot of nothing, right? And a few different reasons for this on Rune, but a lot of it basically going towards Luna, right, will soon be available on Thorchain in order for you guys to earn more yield on it, essentially, right? So yeah, let's go and take a look at this here, and then we'll get into the rest of the coins of what's moving today. But our good old friend Rune doing nice. And in the video, if you go back and watch the video from March 2nd, right, in that video, I basically mentioned to you guys that this 200-day moving average will be a resistance mark that we're going to want to watch closely, right? So we'll get into the details of that, but let's go and look at the macro on Rune once more, right? So Rune, well, let's look at the macro, not even just like the last year, right? So what did we have on Rune for all you Thorchain guys out there? We had a wave 1, a wave 2, a wave 3, a wave 4, and an extended 5th, right? Meaning the 5th was the longest of the 3, and wave 3 in Elliott wave, right, can never be the shortest, right? So wave 1, we had a longer wave 3 and a longer wave 5. Whenever you have an extended 5th, you have a decent pullback, like pretty strong pullback, and a lot of sideways action. So even though Bitcoin in November made a new all-time high, Rune did not, right? And this is partially because the extended 5th makes Rune slightly a little bit more bearish. Also, in the basically towards the middle of this first part of the drop, right, the hack had happened on Thorchain. But like we'd mentioned in the other video, the treasury mainly took care of those funds, so none of the users lost funds. But yeah, of course, it's going to be negative news. But if you're going to get it at any point on your chain, at least in terms of timing, it wasn't the worst of timing, right? And so then when we took a look from the low to the high here, right, we had this 0.786 area, basically 1 or 2 weeks below that area ever so slightly. And then same thing here, but well, a little bit longer, right? So this was kind of like Rune holding on to the edge, right? But then it started pumping, right? And that's where, you know, we get this nice relief rally here on Rune. And we see, you know, strong resistance up here at the 382 level on the macro fibs, which will be at about 1360. And I actually think we'll get a little bit of resistance before 1360. So for those of you guys looking to accumulate more, or for those of you guys looking to take like a 2x or so profit, we'll talk about those levels to watch here in just a minute. So let's go down to the shorter time frame. And I guess if we take a look here, if we do turn on the algo service, the one thing we can see, right, is that we did get a confirmation diamond here, right, on that week, the week after, the first week of March, the end of the first week of March, we had that nice confirmation. So that looked like it was coming in, as things are looking pretty good. Also, another area of resistance here is that weekly 50-week moving average, which is at 860. So remember, 860 and 1360, those will be numbers to look at here in a minute. But positively, right, we'll see where Rune ends this week, right? If it can end this week on a green candle above the 20-week moving average, which is currently at, where are we at here? Basically $7, right? If we can have a 750 or plus increase, right? Or close on the weekly candle, which is in 5 days and 12 hours, we can see Rune popping up here, right? And then the resistance comes just under that fib level of 1360, around $13. So we'll talk about why those levels are important here as we go down to the lower time frame. So what did we see here? Essentially on the micro, right? One more thing I wanted to say on the macro, right? So if that's a wave 1, we have a wave 2, right, with an A, B, and C wave. This whole timing period here could be over, right? There's 2 scenarios for Rune, essentially. There's a macro triangle, right? Kind of like an descending triangle. That's one option. So if we do get that, again, at that 1360 mark, that fib level tends to line up right on that trend line as well. So that's the macro. But if we already have that C wave in and we exceed the previous all-time high, right, which is about $18 or 1780, then that will basically bring us to new all-time highs very, very soon if that level is exceeded, right? So that's the level there that you want to see Rune break above at some point. So caution from, I would say, the 860 to 1360 mark is needed. So that's a good profit taking area. And I expect us to kind of have a little bit of a rollover here at some point. But you never know, right? We could just keep jumping up here and get to that $32 mark. If we do beat $18, we get to $32 pretty damn quick, in my opinion. One of the reasonings for that is if we do take the high here to the lows, bring it across, right? The next fib level is at $33, $34. So that's one area to watch for there. So let's go down to the lower time frames. If you guys are looking to get a little bit more cheap Rune, is that opportunity upcoming? The reason why I'm going a little bit more into details because we did this show here on Rune, right? So in terms of the short-term wave count, right? What do we got here is a wave 1, a wave 2, and we're in a wave 3, right? On a micro scale, on the short-term scale. So the question here is the wave 3 over? Is it going to be over in a bit? Like, where is it going here before a decent pullback? How low can that pullback go? And then where should that wave 5 come in, right? So we got that wave 1, 2. Looks like the 3 is incoming. So let's go down to the super degen 4-hour chart. Or maybe let's go to 8-hour first. We'll go one step at a time here, right? So in terms of this high, right, we had a wave 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. The 5 was truncated, which basically is also, you don't want the wave 5 to be too long or too short. If it's truncated, right, that's also pretty bearish. If it's extended, that's also bearish. And so here we have a truncated one. We had a pretty good pullback. The one interesting thing here is if you pull here from the wave, because there's 5 waves within the wave 1, right? So you go down here from the lows, the absolute lows, and you go to the top of that first move. Look at that. 0.618, basically this golden ratio pocket was hit perfectly, right between 0.618 and 0.65. 0.65 is just, it's not a fib level, but it's just an extra little extension because sometimes, just by a few percentage points, the 0.618 is often exceeded by a bit. And so that hits right in that pocket. And then boom, we get that expected really nice uptrend, right? And then the question is, okay, so what's the target for wave 3? So you can do the same thing on the micro counts as you can on the macro counts. Obviously, the macro counts are a lot more, a lot more reliable. But the short-term counts are also pretty useful. So if we do take that extension here, we've already beaten the first 1.618 level, right? The golden ratio level, which is here at $7.33. And we know the wave 4, right, if this is the correct count, cannot go back below the wave 1, which the high of the wave 1 here was $6.05, right? So we're not likely in terms of the short term to get a move back down into the $5 to $4 area, which was the area, right? I was telling you guys basically between $4 to $5 is the best area to grab. You'd be very lucky if you got like 380. And the low here happened to be about $4.03. All right. So it does look like we have a very good potential here for Thorchain to get up to that 2.618 area, which is about $9.38. So a little bit above that macro $8.60 mark that we were looking at a little bit earlier on the moving averages. So we go down one layer lower here, right? We can see a wave 1 of 3, right? We're in that 3 of 3. We might get a bit of a pullback here for wave 4 of 3 and then wave 5 of 3. So I do think we'll probably chill out right around this area here. Maybe, I would say probably, yeah, mainly in this area here around that $7.33 mark. So maybe if you're lucky, it might come back down towards the low $7 figures. But I think we'll get a little chop here for a few 4-hour candles. How many? Maybe similar to this wave 2 or a little bit longer, right? The wave 2 was about 1 day. So about, 24 hours. So you might get 24 or 48 hours, maybe 3 days max in this area. And then we'll want to see an uptrend here towards the macro wave 3, which looks like it has a very solid chance of hitting that 938. We can also take a look at the wave 1 being, in terms of percentage gain, 40% gain. So if we're assuming the wave 4, the micro scale comes back to maybe $7.20, right? A 30% increase there is very reasonable, very similar to the wave 1. And we did see in the previous wave here that the wave 5 was shorter than the wave 1 as well. So that's also kind of lines up. So one thing we can do from here, right, is be like, okay, so after the wave 3, how far should the wave 4 pull back if it's not going to come back below $6, right? Assuming the wave count is correct, then where would the wave 4 come to? If this is indeed where we start seeing some significant resistance, which would make sense. If we pull back here, we can see the 0.618 level is right on top of that wave 1. So that would be the max extreme, would basically be that $6 mark. But more than likely, you either see, if you see a bearish trend in Bitcoin, for a bit, then you'll see $6.43. But it has a very high chance that Rune just kind of chills out here at about 730. So right now, if we get a dip back to 730, maybe $7.15, it seems like that little area around here is probably the next, like the one area we were telling you guys to get in was during this dip here between $4 to $5, right? Which is essentially, the lower half of the dip. Now on this area, I would say $7.10 ish, right? $7.15 ish to about 740 is basically the area that you would want to grab. So if you want to make it simple, $7 to $7.50 is your next best area to grab before then we get the next wave 5. So assuming, right, this is the pattern, right? Let's take the top of the wave 3 and let's see where the wave 5 on this first move off the bottoms could go for Rune, right? So we have a pullback here, right? And then we have the next uptrend. I would say if I'm going to be bearish or just not overly bullish, I would say this area of 1069 would actually be quite nice. And if we were going to be a little extra bullish here, right, maybe 1279. And again, we can do the same thing on the higher time frame, right? Take this 100% increase. Obviously, the wave 3 so far is basically similar to wave 1. So we would want to see it go longer than wave 1, more than likely, 132. And so then if we see this move here on Rune, right, it is wave 5 would be then the shortest again, which kind of lines up with the micro scale as well as the macro scale here for Rune. Mainly on the short-term scale, actually. And then the other thing that's interesting about that is then if we zoom back out here onto the larger time frame, these two areas right along that trend line, right, are basically here at between 1279 and 1489, which lines up, right, with that previous line of 1360 that we're talking about as potential resistance, right? So if we do see, I would not be surprised if we saw resistance there. So basically, your safest bet for the people who are in the trade is to take profit here between $10 to $13. Not, hashtag not financial advice, not what you'd have to do. But essentially, if you did get into that $4 to $5 range, let's say you got in at $5, right? If you got in at $5, then, a 2x is at $10. So not too difficult to basically take your original principle there. Yeah. And I mean, on the move already, if you did take, profit early, you're already on a 50% plus increase. So if that's good for you, you can take profit whenever you like. But that's essentially the move that looks like is playing out here for Rune. And in terms of timing here, right, Rune has the wave 1 is about a week, and the wave 3 so far has been about a week, might be a little bit longer, like 10 days. And like we said, if the wave 2 here took about 5 days, maybe the wave 4 takes about 10 as well. And then here, let's go another week to 10 days. So yeah, basically around that, I would say April 4th to the 7th, somewhere in there, right? Basically, that profit taking opportunity is there. So if you did get in here at let's say 7:30, you get in, or 7:40, right? From there, on those minor pullbacks that we're seeing right now, right, move up here would be a 90% increase. So not quite a double, right? If we do get to that $13 mark, if we get to only the $10 mark, 10.50, we'll say, right? That's about a 40% increase. So either way, it's a, there's still opportunity here. And it's looking pretty good here for Rune. We got on the daily here, the moving average curling up. And yeah, I would say the area to be cautious, if we do turn on the algo service on the shorter time frames, we got a buy signal after these two sell signals. We got the big dip, we got a buy signal here. We have a sell, but not confirmed here at about $7. Let's see here. $7.26. So if we see Rune close a daily candle below $7.25, right, then you would want to act with caution, and it could come back down, right? So just FYI there. And then this short-term wave count would basically be incorrect, and we'd have to change, and we'd have to adjust, right? That's how trading works, is you do probabilities and possibilities, and then you adjust if things don't pan out exactly the way you hope. So anybody who is in profit, right, I wouldn't put a stop loss at 7.25, but maybe, down at like $6, far enough away, basically that it's above where you bought in, but below, significantly below where you think a small pullback might take you. Even if you did it down here at like 550, 560, I would say that's very, that has low likelihood to get hit unless this count is wrong, right? So that would guarantee you at least, not taking a loss and taking some profit home with you as well. So things are looking pretty good there. And the reason why we're talking about the short-term time frame here on Rune is because if once Rune is done with this consolidation, if it's in a triangle, it's going to consolidate longer and could come back down here to that $3 mark or that $4 mark, which is one reason to take profits up here against that trend line. The other thing though is if it does exceed this $17 mark, the next move up there is then that $33, $34, right? And so if you do take your original principal off, it comes back, you have a chance to get in. If it does pull back here at that $13 mark, let's say it gets up to that 13.60-ish, right? A pullback then here back down towards like $7 wouldn't be too surprising. So if your average, if you take your principal out, you put it back in here at $7, and then you ride that up, or you ladder in here between $7 to $4, right? And then you ride that average price of $5 up to $34. Right, that's going to give you a nice return. So I'm just going in depth on Rune here for you guys because it was a play that we talked about here 2 weeks ago. So this is basically a really nice move that we got going here. So let's go over to other coins that might be moving here basically in the next few days. So the last 24 hours, there's been nothing more than 10% move here, except for Rune. In terms of loss, we have Anchor Protocol down more than 10%, which is kind of interesting. There might be some, because we know, right, some people are yielding on Luna and UST over here, right? And there might be some Luna and UST moving over to Thorchain essentially, which, or being prepared to do so on the back end, right? So it could be a reason for that. I'm not saying it is, but it's possible. But let's go here and take a look at the 100 to 200 market cap coins and see if anything else here is moving on the daily. And then we'll get into Bitcoin and Ethereum. Origin Protocol here up 21%. So making a nice move here today. We'll take a quick look at that. Kyber Network, the altcoins that are under 100 in market cap, we want to see more than a 10% move. So we'll just stick with that one for today. And then on the downside, nothing more than a 10% loss. So not looking too bad here in the macro altcoins in the last 24 hours. And Origin Protocol here, very nice. It's trying to break its downtrend, right? It had a new low here, and it looks like it's trying to break that low. So we'll take a quick look here at OGN as well. This only goes back to January 2020. Yeah, I guess that'll give us enough data, right, to watch this uptrend and then pull back. So yeah, you can see the pullback here was quite extreme, right? It went up quite fast, right? And then it took a very long time for it to pull back right into the middle of that support area. And it does look like it's broken its downtrend in terms of the short-term downtrend here on the weekly chart. So yeah, I think this will basically try to make a move back above this area here of about the 100-week moving average. So that's the next area for OGN Origin Protocol, which is a nice project and this is nice, double buy signal on the algo service, which we don't see too often. But when we do, and it hits a low, and there's some confluence with other indicators or TA, then that could be quite nice. So yeah, this week, is green enough that I think we'd have to see a really bearish candle for this to not trigger that buy signal, and that would push it back down. So looking good here on Origin Protocol as well. Anybody who likes this project, not a bad time, to basically dollar cost average. It's hitting, this area of resistance is basically where it's hitting now. So yeah, not a bad area to grab in if you're bullish on the macros with Bitcoin and Ethereum. But yeah, both projects are nice, Origin Protocol as well as Thorchain. And so, yeah, that's what's moving on the market today. Let's go take a look at Bitcoin and Ethereum as well. E says, what do you think about Hex? I like Hex. I own a lot of it. In terms of the price, yeah, I would say it's nice, but we're not going to jump into that one too much today. We're basically getting a Bitcoin and Ethereum, but Hex, anything under 14 cents with Hex is a good buy in my opinion. Solid. So Bitcoin, what are we seeing here on the macro? And Bitcoin's basically been dodging bullets left and right throughout the second half of this 60-day cycle, right? What do I mean by that? So we had this capitulation low here on January 24th, right? The mid-cycle point, day 30 of the 60-day cycle, was here on February 23rd. And we had that capitulation low just after on day 31 of the 60-day cycle. And then we've had, just a lot of crabbing ever since then. And price should, in all honesty, be dumping here, but it's not. Right? So this is definitely something to take note of. We've been telling you guys in this little area here between $35,000 to $37,000, that whole range, right? This is the area where Bitcoin needs to hold going into the end of the 60-day cycle. Now, in terms of where we're at in the 60-day cycle, we're on day 50. And we know when we have a left translated cycle, which is a high above a bearish high, which is before day 30, right? Before that midpoint of the 60-day cycle, which we didn't miss it by all that much. But anyways, we do have that cycle high right now on the 17th day of the 60-day cycle, which should be bearish, right? So we should be seeing a lot more dumping action below this support level, but we haven't, right? We've been holding up quite well. And we do know when we do have a bearish type cycle, we do often have a shorter time frame in terms of when the cycle will end. So right now, being on day 50, anytime within the next 10 days, 10 to 15 days max, right? We should see a low and a pump from there. Now, the low doesn't have to be, it could be a time-based low. Let's say we get that on let's say we get it, 2 days from now, right? Let's say we get it on March 17th. Just throwing a random number out there, right? Day 52. Last was 51. Let's go 52 days for this cycle. And we get that maybe ever so slightly below this low here, which is at 37,000. Or maybe, right, Bitcoin pulls up here and can't push down. The time that we've seen that in the past, right, was, if we go back on the charts, right, we saw the same pattern here where we had a cycle low. We had a cycle low here at 8,000 and some change. We had the cycle high in a bearish place before day 30. right? But we saw a higher low. The Bitcoin had a really hard time dumping, and we just had a time-based low. We also had a triangle type pattern, and Bitcoin broke out, and then it really started to run, right? And then we can go back in 2019. We had the same 2 times, had a bearish cycle high before day 30. Price dumped, but it couldn't dump below the low. We had another pump, bearish cycle high before day 30. Price again couldn't dump into a proper cycle low. This was also a triangle based scenario, right? If we just kind of pull that up here, we pull this across, right? It was also one of these contracting basically periods of time in terms of price, and that confuses a lot of people, right? And the confusion is the nerve-wracking thing for a lot of people in crypto, right? So we've seen those at different bottoms before. Oops. And what are we seeing now? We also are seeing, a bit of a triangle here in the short term, right? So that contracting period, if we do just kind of keep slowly trending higher, as we get closer to day 60, which is March 25th, I think we could see a nice pop to the upside. Now, the cycles say that we should be popping down, but because we've seen that happen before, where Bitcoin kind of defies gravity, if that continues to happen, and especially Bitcoin breaking above 46,000 would then lead us to higher uptrend, and I think that would confuse a lot of people. So we're going to talk how that could happen and why. What's the macro narrative right now globally that would kind of allow this to happen? Because I think that would confuse a lot of people, because a lot of people have very bearish sentiment across all markets, the traditional markets as well. Obviously, people are bullish on oil and gold, but we'll talk about that macro narrative here for Bitcoin if we do manage to see Bitcoin pull that off over the next 10 days. But again, we still have 10 days before we start seeing that. But yeah, just FYI on that. So let's take a quick look at Ethereum, and we'll take a look here into the macro narrative as well. So Ethereum has been more bearish than Bitcoin, meaning it hasn't gotten close to its cycle high. So Ethereum's definitely in a bearish 60-day cycle. But again, Ethereum, right, low, higher lows, right? It's holding up. So if we see Ethereum, I would say Ethereum could be kind of not a canary in the coal mine, because I don't think it will precede Bitcoin, right? Its lows and highs have happened in the same timing. But because we might see a more extreme move, if we do see a move in Ethereum that's quite intense, we'd have to break this high here, which is at about $3,050. So if Ethereum can basically move up to $3,050, that's when looks like cycle lows are in, and we're likely to move to the upside. And it looks like it has a very solid chance at beating that 60-day cycle high. But Ethereum, in the short term, has to beat this 50-day moving average first, which is at about $2,800. All right, so $2,800, and maybe give it, I would say 3,000, because it gave it a little bit of room. You see Ethereum's tried to pop above that 50-day moving average several times here over this current 60-day cycle, and has failed miserably. So if it can get above there and hold that as support, I would say that would be a very strong sign that the 60-day cycle is over for both Bitcoin and Ethereum. So, okay, so we have that chance, right? This is the bull case. Again, we talked about both the bull and the bear cases extensively in previous shows. So I just want to go for what's the bull case for Q2. So if we do see both Bitcoin and Ethereum, right, having a hard time dumping, kind of defying what we usually see, which tends to happen during trend changes anyways, right? Then what can we expect for Q2 going forward? And where do we need to be cautious, even in the bull case, right? So one thing we want to look at is, well, what would this mean for altcoins? And we've been talking about this trend line here for altcoins, right? Meaning Bitcoin dominance, right? If Bitcoin dominance stays well below this trend line, we should see the altcoins holding up decently, right? And yeah, we don't see a lot of dumping in the altcoins today. And one of the reasons there is because Bitcoin dominance is still under this trend line. The last 2 weeks, we flirted with this trend line every single time. So if we do see in the next 10 days, right, which would be 2 more candles on here, kind of trending slightly lower. If we do see that start to break to the downside, Ethereum start to hold above this above $2,800, and Bitcoin as well coming up above 46 or at least above $43,000. We start seeing those types of things happening, right? Then we know, okay, the altcoins are probably going to start coming a little bit after that. Now, it doesn't mean the altcoins are going to go to their new all-time highs, right? But it is a good buying opportunity, right? I would say between March 20th and 25th to be safe, right? And if you're really cautious, maybe wait till April 1st or so. But if you're, want to take a shot, right, putting some capital in at the current prices is not a bad idea, in my opinion. If you're willing to hold those coins, if we do get the bear case of that, and that line to the downside is broken. The other thing we can see here, right, we can pull this. Let's pull up a trend line on the weekly chart. We'll pull this across here. It lines up, this trend line on the downside lines up very, very well. So we saw this, right? We saw this downtrend basically broken, right? And we've held up above the other trend line, which lines up very well with this 100 week moving average at about $34,000, right? So holding above that $34,000 line, $35,000 line will be positive for Bitcoin. If we go here to the daily chart on that, then, right, a cycle low holding above there will be the like if the price does move down further, that would be the area to watch for around, let's say, March 25th. If we do come down here to that $34,000 mark, right, then we're going to be kind of like, okay, we're going to wait a little bit. Maybe we take a few shots, but we're going to wait to see if that holds. And if it does, and we come back up here above $37,000 or so, then we see some nice pump. I'll pull up another chart here in a minute on Glassnode for you guys. But essentially, the pivot point for Bitcoin's price in terms of where people have mostly bought their coins is about $39,000. Right? DJ Finesse says, when in doubt, buy ETH, Charlie. Yes, 100%, 100%. Because you can hold that ETH for 5 years and make profit, no problem, right? But anyways, what we got going on here in terms of $39,000 for Bitcoin, right? That's the pivot point to where if Bitcoin can get back above that area and hold that as support, which it does line up here well with that 50-day moving average, which is currently at $40,100, right? We could basically Bitcoin could start holding that level again, then I think it does. Basically, the cycle low would be in, and we do get that bullish scenario, right? So if we do get that bullish scenario, I don't think, like I said, I don't think everything will go to new all-time highs, right? But it could come up here, right? Very close, right? It could come up very close to all-time highs. I'm basically saying for Bitcoin between $55,000 to $65,000, you'd be lucky if it gets up to like 69. And then if we do have this triangle playing out, we could get another strong pullback, maybe as down as low as that 39,000 again, which would be strong support by that time, right? So the next move here in Q2, right, we're talking about the bull case for Q2, and then we're going to look into some metrics on this, as well as some of the narrative happening globally on this, right? If we do see that move take place, not saying it's 100% guaranteed, I'm just saying the possibility of it, right? If we do see that start to take place, that might be over a longer period of time. That could be over Q2 and Q3, right? So it might take a few 60-day cycles, right? So if we do take a look at this on a cycles perspective, turn back on that log scale. If we do look at it from a cycles perspective, let's assume that the 60-day cycle low will come in on March 20th. Right, the next 60-day cycle will bring us to none other than May 19th, right? If we already have, so I'm just going to give you guys those lines in the sand for right now. So we go to the 30 days of the 60-day cycle, right? This is around mid-April, all right? So why are we putting the crypto mindset course around April 15th? This is the question. I think Angelo in the house said, could we get a dip coming into April 15th? I think there's two things here, right, that we're basically looking at. So in the bull case, I think Bitcoin could be significantly higher, and on a pullback, right, could come back down into that mid-cycle low, which could be around basically the 19th of April to maybe around the 24th. So I think right after tax season, we might see a little bit of that mid-cycle low, kind of like what we had here. We had a cycle high, we had a mid-cycle low, right? And so we'll have more data by that point in time to really be strongly convicted as bullish or bearish, because if we do break down here below $33,000 on a weekly close right here in the next, let's say, 1 to 2 weeks, if that does happen and we go down, right, then the next 60-day cycle, right? So let's say the cycle low comes in here. We get a low around the 25th of March. And then we have another bearish cycle where we have a bit of a pump up here. And then we get a low. We'll know this by the time April 15th or 24th comes around, somewhere over the course of that week or so, right? During that period of time, then we would see basically the lows going into, maybe like $26,000 if the bears do win out on at the end of the current 60-day cycle. So mainly things to watch for here in terms of the bull bear case, right, is we want to see this 34 to 37,000, mainly 35 to 37, but 34 as well, hold up here into the end of the 60-day cycle, see what we get for the next move in the early part of the 60-day cycle. And then if it holds up and we don't have too brutal of a 60-day cycle midpoint low like we had here, then we can see a nice second half of that next 60-day cycle. And let's say Bitcoin then at that point is around $50,000, right? So it's doing pretty well. Then, right, going into the end of the next 60-day cycle, right, we could get into that 55 to 65K range, which would be here towards the end of May. So that'd bring for a nice, so basically we got two situations for the end of May, very extreme, right? We have that high 50 to low 60K range possibility, or 26,000. It's really not really likely to be very far in between there, right, for that next 60-day cycle low. So either way, Moon Gang wins. And so this is part of the reasoning for putting the course there. The other thing you got to take in mind, right, is when we do get that mid-cycle low going into the next crypto mindset course, that is basically right after tax season, right? So people taking some of their gains on crypto to pay taxes, right, put some downwards pressure going into that mid 60-day cycle point. And then from that point, we'll be very have enough data here to be very understanding of if we're going to go really high or really low. And either way, right, you buy that dip aggressively, because we've talked about this before, but that would be the end of the bear case. And if it does pump up very high here, then it's a good area to take profits. So either way, right, in Q2, you're going to have a lot of potential for buying the dip or taking profits aggressively. So that's what we got there. Let's take a look here, though, at why I'm talking about the bull case today. Right, there's obviously a lot of different reasons, but here we've talked about this with Plan C, I think 2 weeks ago on Moon Gang. Right, we talked about the 1-year HODL waves. And here at lookintobitcoin.com, right, there's a very nice chart here looking at it. And if you do take a look at when these lows basically have been formed, right, what tends to not the lows, but when after the lows have been formed, right, when we start seeing a nice uptrend, right, usually those happen after the HODL waves have basically started to peak up, and they start kind of going to the downside or sideways, right? So we saw a low here, right? This was increasing, and then we saw some sideways action on this. It did peak again one more time, but then when we saw this peak here at 63%, it started going down aggressively, because here it wasn't going down aggressively. Here it started going down aggressively. Then we saw the prices taking off, right? So when the long-term holders are not holding anymore, when they're maybe moving their wallets over to ready to take profits, right, that's when we get a nice ramp up in price. And then we also do get peaks, right? They didn't label this as a peak here, but you can see that would be around the same kind of space here on the HODL waves over the last 2 ones. So what we see here is, right, more and more of the people holding Bitcoin for 1 year or more right, are not moving their Bitcoin right now. They've just been hodling it here since the end of November, right? This has been an accumulation area, actually, going from the all-time highs down to where we have been. So from 69,000 down to 33,000. We've seen a lot of on-chain data of basically people buying during a lot of this time, but people who are, basically going, been hodling for a while as well, are not selling their coins during this dip as aggressively as you might think. It's mainly the short-term holders selling. So we don't have a lot of sellers in the market, right? The short-term holders have finished capitulating for the most part. The long-term holders ain't selling, right? And then, so who do we have left for sellers, right? Not a lot. So all that means is we need a macro narrative of buyers. So what's going to attract the buyers is the question, right? Because obviously with a lot of this chop, crypto is something that's right now being slept on, honestly, right? It's very similar here to the second half of 2019, right? Much more so than it was here in 2018. Why do I say that? Let's blow this up a little bit, right? So in the, in 2018, right? Actually, it'd probably be easier to look at this on the Bitcoin chart itself. Let's go to a clean one on the macro. We were showing the bear case here on Moongate, just to keep you guys aware. But here in 2018, if you look at the macro, what did we see in a bear market? We saw aggressive price decline, right? Like extremely aggressive in a short period of time, right? It's a 70% drop, right? In a matter of weeks, not months, weeks, right? And then each high was a higher low, and then weakness, and then drop, right? And whereas here, we didn't see anything like that, right? We came down, but when we pumped up quite strongly, we came down again, higher low, low, higher low, right? And if we get another strong pump here going into Q2, even if we do have that triangle scenario where we come back down a bit, right, to 40,000 again, right, then essentially, this doesn't look anything like what happened in 2018. Now, if we take a look at what happened in 2019, right, we did see something not exactly the same as this. I would say this is a more bullish kind of, what do you call it, correction within a bull market. Here we had a correction within a bull market as well. Obviously, we had the black swan event of the Corona crash here at the end. But even before that, right, we saw like some price action move here, lower high. So people were kind of bearish about this at the time. But then we saw a pretty good altcoin run right here, which doesn't often, didn't happen at all, in this bear market, right? And so this Corona crash was actually a solid opportunity, right? I would say without the black swan event, this would not have happened. Bitcoin would have probably most likely held above $7,000, right, during this type of pullback. And then we would have saw a lot of this sideways action before the actual increase here, or we might have seen an increase a little bit earlier into this wave 3. So essentially, we do see that we're more likely to be basically similar to 2019 than we were in terms of the last 1 year than we were to be similar to 2018, in my opinion, which is pretty nice and bullish. And then if we kind of, how do I zoom back out on this thing? I guess maybe I have to refresh it. But we saw this in 2019 as well, where we did see a peak here, but then we saw an increase in the 1-year hodlers go up here, right? And then once basically that started to kind of decrease here, we didn't have a large decrease, but once we had a significant decrease here above from the 63%, right, a significant gradient to the downside, that's when we started seeing basically the tops potentially coming in. So over Q2, this will be something to watch here with the hodl wave is, do we start seeing like maybe towards that after April 15th to the beginning of May, do we start seeing this kind of roll over? I would say that would make us pump quite well going into Q3. Or do we see actually a lot of holders not taking extensive profits and we just see this kind of leveling off or kind of slowly going up? If we see that over the Q2, right, then that might mean the triangle scenario is more likely in play. But both are bullish in my opinion. So things are looking pretty good here. So what's the narrative then? Okay, so people are holding. There's not many sellers. We just need more demand coming into the market. We're more like the correction of a bull market in 2019 than we are in the bear market of 2018. Okay, so we got that all unpacked here, which is the most important. now let's take a look here at this week's narrative in the macro news, right? And how is this affecting crypto? So yesterday, or well, I think it was Sunday night on Moon Gang, right? My yesterday, we were talking about this, right? Ooh, the boogeyman, right? Europe looking to ban Bitcoin, right? Proof of work. EU is set to vote on whether or not it intends to ban Bitcoin and Ethereum, right? That is scary news if it basically passed. Why? China effectively banned Bitcoin officially, right? For mining and all of that for different reasons. This was mainly because of the environmental, cost that they perceive Bitcoin to have, even though we gave you guys reasons on Moon Gang why that's incorrect. But in Iceland and a few other countries in Europe, there are a lot of mining. There is a lot of mining activity actually, right? And so it could be quite bad for Bitcoin because moving those miners around, right? The hash rate would come back. We saw when China banned Bitcoin, the hash rate bounced right back going into America, right? But we did see, that it affect price, right? A lot of the miners in China likely had to sell their Bitcoin in order to kind of make their expenses essentially. And so, if we did see this ban in Europe, I would say that would bring, it has a potential for shifting the mining geolocation, bring more to America and probably more to Russia and other countries as well for mining. But in the short term, right, we would probably feel some repercussions from that. So it is quite nice to see this bill did fail, right? So the European Union's Bitcoin ban failed miserably, which is great, right? Doesn't mean we're out of the woods yet, right? But it is a positive sign here that some of the governing bodies here actually are doing some research, or at least some people within them are doing some research, right? So the proof of work ban in the European Union basically fails, right, for their crypto, basically is a bill related to the crypto markets, fails in committee, right? We had, and this regulation that they've been talking about is called the Markets in Digital Assets, or MiCA, something like that. And where was it? They didn't say the count here. In another one, I think it was about 33 people supported removing the ban from this legislation, and 23 people opposed. So the majority got this proof of work ban to be taken out of the MiCA regulation. And the MiCA regulation itself, right, passed, which is Europe wants more clarity for crypto. So this was really the only thing a lot of people were complaining about, was they had this little provision and they're trying to ban proof of work mechanisms. So basically affecting Bitcoin mining and Ethereum mining in the short term. But that was taken out successfully. And then the actual committee did pass the overall bill, right, which will hopefully add more, for maybe the second half of this year, add more clarity for people in Europe related to crypto, which and then would bring some positivity to the market. Now, the votes were pretty close, right? But I would say this is a win. When Bitcoin basically, if we go back to the short-term chart, when Bitcoin has been defying gravity in terms of the 60-day cycles, right, and just holding up, and we have this news, which could be negative, actually turning positive, right, and more clarity coming in Europe. That's overall good. It's overall good. And so that just strengthens Bitcoin coming into the end of the 60-day cycle. And we're not out of the woods yet. We do have another piece of news here today to watch out for, but I think that one is actually a little less surprising to people, right? So if you want more information on this MiCA bill and basically, or committee, and how this basically was voted upon, you can read Patrick Hansen's tweet thread here, which I think is very nice. So I'll copy that link to you guys and send that over here. You guys can go take a look at that. He does give a lot of detail in here, some opinion as well, but I'll read a little bit of it, right? So the Econ Committee of the EU Parliament just voted against the de facto proof of work ban, 32 against and 24 in favor of basically keeping that ban in the bill, right? So that got taken out essentially. Big relief and political success for Bitcoin and crypto community in the European Union. And then we'll share a breakdown of the vote and what's next here in this thread. And I'll give you the too long didn't read. You guys can, because I put that in the chat there, you guys can go read this in more detail. But basically there is another bill that will be coming around the corner here. Actually, maybe I will read it a little bit, right? So mining will in all likelihood no longer be addressed within this MiCA regulation, but added to the EU sustainability finance taxonomy, right? So that's the thing to watch for next. Okay, so if they're going to try to, take this clause and put it in somewhere else, right, in the next few months, maybe 3 to 4 months, maybe even 6 months, the timeline on that would be unknown. But if it does happen, they go and try to slip it in somewhere else, then yeah, there might be a little bit of that uncertainty in the next 6 months. But at least we have some positivity here, meaning that apparently these politicians, do some research here, which is good to see. But like I said, if you want more detail here, go and read this. But the other thing here, right, in terms of, okay, what's the next bullet for Bitcoin to dodge going into the cycle low? Well, here's the next one, right? William Ring in the chat says mid-cycle low for Bitcoin 420, baby. Let's go. Nice. Here for our good friends over at CNBC, right? They're keeping good track of what's happening in the FOMC meetings over at the Federal Reserve, right? So literally, this part is all you really need to know at this point in time, in my opinion, which is here's everything the Federal Reserve is expected to do in its meeting this week, right? That's today and tomorrow, March 15th and March 16th, right? So the Federal Reserve meets this week. It is expected to begin unwinding the massive economic help it provided during the pandemic, meaning all the money printing, right? The QE. That process will likely start with an interest rate hike of 1/4 percentage point, right? So I think that's the thing that a lot of people are uncertain about, right? Is it going to be 1/4 point? Is it going to be 1/2 point? If it's 1/2 point, that's pretty bearish, right? But the Federal Reserve hasn't put out too many surprising bits of information throughout this, right? I think in January, right, people were like, are they going to do interest rate hikes? They said they would in December, but, are they really going to do it? And then they did. So they've been kind of following the plan that they've been setting out for 2022 so far. And so I would not expect more than 1/4 of a percentage point hike, right? So the next 2 days, as they say, yep, this is true, right? We only have this 1/4 of a percentage point interest rate hike. Right? I think that's good for the markets in terms of clarity, right? Because like we said, that uncertainty of kind of just the sideways crabbing action, and the S&P has been down quite strongly, as well as the NASDAQ and other things, but they're starting to rebound, right? This information here, everybody's already expecting. So if it turns out as expected, it's more of a relief than anything. And then the markets can kind of get back along their jolly way, right? In my opinion. And so that's bullish, not only for Bitcoin, but I think all markets, just that clarity and not having this potential rate hike looming over people's heads anymore, right? So policymakers also will update their outlook for rates as well as GDP, inflation, and unemployment. So, you can't believe anything they project on inflation, right? You can see that in the next point here. At the last update, officials projected inflation would run at about 2.7%, obviously a massive undershoot of current conditions, right? So, yeah, we know that these things in terms of inflation, right, they have a hard time predicting. So, but they can at least control this. So I think this here within the next couple of days, if it does turn out to have that 1/4 of a percentage point, that's more of a relief than anything to the market. And I think you see markets start to kind of be like, okay, now we know what's going on here, right? There's not too much uncertainty, especially with Bitcoin, right? There's not too much uncertainty. Last but not least, there's some bullishness out here for Bitcoin. Good question, Dustin. says, is April 15th the start date for the Q2 course or the date to sign up? That's the first date to begin signing up. So we'll talk about the actual dates of the course later as we approach it. But yeah, April 15th is when sales begin. And you'll be able to actually enroll in the course for 5 days. And I'll talk about that more here in a second. But here's some bullish news. If this pans out, obviously politicians, right, change their mind every day. So taking, this macro narrative with a grain of salt, but hey, we're giving that bull case for Q2 and things are looking, to be sunny a little bit, right? In terms of Bitcoin, right? We broke this downtrend so far, have held above these lower levels here. And if we do get that into the 60-day cycle low, we get some clarity on, basically we already got some clarity here, right? With the proof of work ban being taken out. And then we're potentially getting more clarity here from the Federal Reserve in the next couple of days. Well, what if we start seeing bullish news across the board for crypto, right? I think one thing which is bullish news is, people who have been frozen out of their bank accounts in Russia and Ukraine, both of those countries have bought a lot of Bitcoin in the last month because of that self-sovereign money. So you're going to start seeing a lot of people around the world realize, I think, a lot more news about that self-sovereignty of cryptocurrency, right, being a positive boon for crypto. But then you also might see something like this, where South Korea's incoming president vows big cryptocurrency push. But his name is Yoon, or his last name, but Yoon's path to implementing coin offerings and tax breaks remains unclear. So how is he going to implement something like this? We do not know. But having a leader of a country, right, being positive towards crypto will be very, very interesting. So if we kind of scroll down here, let's read the beginning of this article, and I'll also put this in the chat because this is a little bit of a longer one so that you guys can read this as well for part of your due diligence and research, which you should be doing because that's the whole point of the Crypto Mindset course, is to give you guys the tools to be able to do your own research and due diligence, right? So South Korean President-elect Yoon Suk Yeol, I guess his first name is Yoon, I guess, will take office in May. And with no business experience, will take office in May with no business experience, but strong ideas on one of the most contentious subjects in finance, cryptocurrency. Yoon, a former top prosecutor who emerged victorious last week in the closest vote for the top office in the country's history, has promised to allow initial coin offerings, or ICOs, as part of his broader cryptocurrency pledges. That's quite surprising, especially from a lawyer, right? Okay, guys, go for it. ICOs, yeah. I want to know which interest group paid this guy off. Like, we need to get them over to the United States, start talking to the politicians over there. But, not really unique. I have not seen something like this with a lot of countries talking positively about initial coin offerings. But there's actually a lot of logic to this, right? So he's a member of the Conservative People Power Party, which sounds fun. The Power Party. Yeah, let's do it. The People Power Party. But anyways, he has also vowed to not to impose taxes on cryptocurrency trading gains of up to 50 million won, or $40,000, treating them the same as stock winnings. Finally, some common sense here among regulations, or at least people who are having wanting to change those regulations. Obviously, there's no guarantee that this would happen, right? But for your normal, average, everyday trader, right, not imposing taxes on cryptocurrency trading gains and treating them the same as stock winnings up to a certain amount, right, up to a certain threshold, is logical. I think most countries should be doing this, right? And in this case, right, they're keeping the laws consistent between the traditional market and crypto, right? Seems like common sense, but not a lot of, common sense isn't so common, right? So Yoon's proposals were welcomed by the cryptocurrency advocates who expect obstacles to be removed and the door open to increase opportunities in blockchain technology-based assets. They were saying, we definitely welcome his stance as he is confident about boosting the industry, said the Secretary General of Korean Blockchain Association, a lobby group which we need in the States for cryptocurrency exchanges and other market participants. As ICOs are banned now, we have no choice but to issue coins in Singapore and other countries. Ventures and startups will be able to raise money easily from investors if the ban is lifted, right? and obviously this Yoon is a different Yoon, right? So not the same as the president-elect. So this is really interesting, and I think something to pay attention to, because for the second half of this year, if he does basically start shifting in that direction, it could be positive for crypto overall, right? For politicians starting to understand it and properly regulate it. That could be a boon, right? And that could be the narrative push that Bitcoin really needs to really start moving, right, back to not only the previous highs, but maybe after a pullback, right, really getting, once there is a lot of clarity. Remember, in 6 months, right, the Biden administration for the United States will then basically have a more clear outlook on all digital assets, including cryptocurrencies. So if we do get that regulatory clarity as Bitcoin is kind of, sloshing here, and we get some of these nice pumps to basically take profits and buy more coins, right? Then we could see a lot of positive action. So this isn't something that's only going to play out over Q2. It's going to play out over the rest of 2022. But things are looking, bright. Things are looking good. So just, I like it. I like it a lot. The other thing that I really liked here over the last 24 hours that you guys should be paying attention to here is Timothy jumping on the streams with Polemos, right? So I just typed in here on Twitter yesterday, Moongangers making waves. Congrats to the Art Nest or Timothy for going full-time crypto. Another level of the Citadel unlocked. I mean, I'm really proud of Timothy. I think over a year and a half in crypto. Our first consultation was around December of 2020, right? And Timothy really dug into crypto, tried to understand crypto, NFTs as well. Did a lot of solo projects on NFTs that did really well, and he's gotten his way into Polemos here. So congratulations, obviously, for Timothy. And if you guys want to go watch this, it is not currently on their YouTube. I think it's on their Twitch or Discord where you can see the video to this basically. But yeah, seeing people out here, being happy for Timothy and all that jazz. A lot of people liking this, so good to see. Yeah, Timothy here also just saying thank you so much, Cultivate Crypto and Dollar Cost Crypto, for your guidance through the last year and a half. You guys are absolutely derailed my life in a very unexpected yet very positive way. So thank you very much for the kind words as well, Timothy, because yeah, you got to shoot your shot. You also got to go for the fences. And yeah, Timothy understands crypto. He has the right crypto mindset, and he has really adjusted and changed his life massively. And he's going to be duly rewarded for this over the next few years, and many, many more, in my opinion. Obviously, he has a lot of talent, but finding a way to take your talents and apply them in the crypto space is really, kind of how you make it long term. So definitely another level here of the Citadel unlocked, which is always good to see. And we got Mr. Miyagi himself, Dollar Cost Crypto here, saying yes, right? So yeah, good to see Moongangers thriving here in the crypto space. So appreciate that. Glad to see it. Hopefully we see many more cases like this going forward, right? Yeah, so pretty good here. If you want to jump into the crypto mindset course, right, which will be coming out on April 15th for sale, right, come over here. If you have not put in your best email address here, cryptomindsetcourse.com. I'll throw this link one more time for you guys in the chat here. Right, make sure you got your space. Yeah, we'll be good to see everybody returning here, continue to dollar cost average, finding new ways to earn more dry powder, also more ways to continue building yourself up, cultivating crypto here. So if you want to jump in early and make sure you're on the list there for the next crypto mindset course on April 15th, make sure that you get in there. Well, the getting is good. Another thing, right, that we have going on, right, if you want to get into any of the other services going on here before the crypto mindset course to help you prepare, we have the algo service webinars happening twice a month. We have one happening today in just a couple of hours. So if you want to jump into that, or the next one in 2 weeks, right, come over here and get that. We do have the one-on-one single lesson here with Greg for $300. And Commando was also mentioning earlier the discussion in the Telegram chart access group. So yeah, come over here, grab any of those if you so please, and if you want to get deeper and deeper into what is going on. So what is good question here, Crypto Boogie? Let's take a look at that here. So what's the deadline for the Crypto Mindset course? So we'll do this over 5 days. So the enrollment period begins on April 15th. The deadline will then be the 20th, I believe, right? Let's just make a double check of that. The 19th at midnight, right? So that would be 5 days, right? So yeah, midnight standard time, Pacific. All right. Yes, there's no change in the price point, right? It is $9.97. Yep. So good. And we're going to have to take out no coin chilling in the chat, FYI. So that is gone and is gone. Let's see here. Correct. Still 10% discount for ETH and or Bitcoin, either or. Correct. Let's see here. What else was going on in the chat when we were talking about the subject? Moonfell Rational Ganger says, the one thing people hate more than lawyers is bankers. That is true. Chris Perez says, Biden's and inflation being correlated with government spending is simply not true. Sleepy Joe needs a nap. He's delusional. Dirt nap. No, I'm joking. Let's see here. Nice. Carlos said, I was there when Timothy shot his shot in the course. Let's fucking go. I love it. Perfect. Kawaii watched the stream with Polemos there live yesterday. Awesome. Nice. Big says the regulation there in Korea. That's why Do Kwon, the founder of Luna, made the 11 million bet on Luna price on Twitter. Maybe he knew a little bit about that prior, right? So yeah, we'll be back here tomorrow at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for the Tokyo Crypto Show with me and John MLD. Which is good. So Commando says here, if you do like the free content and the free information, hit that like, subscribe, and comment. That does help us in the algo. Come over here to the Q2 Crypto Mindset waiting list. Enrollment will begin on Friday, April 15th. Yeah, just do all those, and we will see you guys here tomorrow. So EC, definitely correct there. So, all right, guys, we'll see you back here for some more crypto info very, very soon. So until tomorrow, guys, peace, live long and prosper. We'll catch y'all again soon. Later.